Hello, my little love. Did you have a good day today? I hope something made you smile. Now take a slow breath, relax your shoulders, and let your mind get soft and quiet. It's time for a gentle bedtime story. Long ago, when the world was still learning how to be beautiful, there lived a kind and powerful friend of the ocean named Poseidon. He had long silver hair that flowed like waves, and his eyes were the color of the deepest, calmest sea you've ever imagined. Poseidon lived in a palace made of smooth pearls and coral beneath the gentle rolling waves, where schools of golden fish swam through archways of soft light and seahorses danced slowly in the warm currents. Every morning, Poseidon would rise early and look out across his ocean home. He loved watching the sun paint the water with streaks of pink and orange, turning the waves into ribbons of glowing silk. The dolphins would greet him with their sweet clicking songs, and the whales would hum their deep, peaceful melodies that rumbled softly through the water like a lullaby for the whole sea. Poseidon's greatest joy was keeping the ocean calm and safe for everyone who lived there and everyone who traveled across it. He carried with him a beautiful staff, smooth and carved from ancient driftwood, decorated with tiny shells that chimed gently whenever he moved. When he touched this staff to the water, ripples of peace would spread out in perfect circles, making the waves settle into soft, rolling hills of blue. One warm afternoon, as golden sunlight filtered down through the clear water in shimmering beams, Poseidon noticed something that made his kind heart feel heavy. In a small cove near a quiet island, the water had become choppy and restless. The little fish there couldn't swim smoothly, and the sea turtles had trouble resting on the sandy bottom. Even the gentle kelp forests swayed too roughly, tangling themselves into worried knots. Poseidon swam closer, moving through the water as gracefully as a whisper, and he listened carefully. You see, the ocean could speak to him in soft murmurs and sighs, telling him what was wrong. The water there was feeling lonely and forgotten, the ocean told him. No one had visited this cove in such a long time, and the waves didn't know how to be still anymore because they'd spent so long trying to call someone to come and see how beautiful they were. This made Poseidon's gentle heart ache with understanding. He knew how it felt to want someone to notice something special. So he sat down on a smooth rock at the edge of the cove, right where the water met the shore, and he began to speak softly to the restless waves. Dear water, he said in a voice like warm honey, I see you. I notice how the sunlight makes you sparkle like 1,000 tiny stars. I see how you've kept this cove safe and clean, even when you felt alone. You are beautiful, and you are important, and I'm here now to remind you of that. The water seemed to pause and listen. The waves grew just a little bit smaller, as if they were leaning in to hear his words better. Poseidon smiled and continued, You don't have to splash and leap to be noticed. The gentlest, quietest waters are often the most beautiful of all. When you're calm and still, you become a mirror for the sky. You reflect the clouds drifting by like soft sheep, and you show the moon her own sweet face at night. When you're peaceful, the little fish can see their families clearly, and the baby turtles can rest without being tumbled about. He reached down and trailed his fingers through the water, and everywhere he touched, a soft blue glow appeared, warm and comforting like a nightlight. Let me show you something, Poseidon whispered. With his staff, he gently touched the center of the cove, and a magical thing happened. The water began to remember all the beautiful moments it had held. There were memories of silver moonlight nights when the water had been so still it looked like glass, and tiny fish had slept in its gentle embrace. There were memories of warm summer days when the sun had made the shallow parts feel like a cozy bath. And crabs had danced sideways across the sandy bottom without fear. There were memories of spring mornings when the water had been kissed by rain, and each raindrop had made a perfect little ring that sang a tiny tinkling song. As the water remembered these peaceful times, it began to calm. The choppy waves smoothed themselves out like someone straightening a soft blanket. The surface grew quieter and quieter until it became a beautiful, tranquil mirror reflecting the sky above. "There you are," Poseidon said softly, his voice full of warmth. "This is who you truly are. Calm, gentle, and perfectly lovely." But Poseidon knew that the water needed more than just his words. It needed to feel like it belonged to something, like it mattered in the great big ocean. So he did something very special. He called to all the creatures of the sea, sending out a gentle invitation that rippled through the water like the sweetest song. Within moments, they began to arrive. First came the dolphins, leaping gracefully through the air and diving into the cove with barely a splash. Their sleek bodies cutting through the water like silk ribbons. They swam in slow, peaceful circles, chattering happily to each other about how beautiful and calm this special place was. Then came the sea turtles, ancient and wise, paddling slowly with their strong flippers. They settled on the sandy bottom of the cove and sighed with contentment, their old eyes closing peacefully as they rested in the gentle, still water. Schools of fish arrived next, thousands of them in all the colors you could imagine. There were fish as blue as the summer sky, fish as yellow as sunshine, fish with stripes of silver that caught the light like tiny rainbows. They swam together in swirling patterns that looked like underwater clouds, moving so smoothly and gracefully that they seemed to be dancing to music only they could hear. Even the shy octopuses came, changing their colors from nervous gray to happy pinks and purples as they explored the rocky edges of the cove. The starfish crawled slowly along the bottom, their 5 arms moving in a patient, deliberate rhythm that was soothing to watch. Poseidon sat on his rock and smiled as he watched the cove fill with life. The water was now so calm and clear that you could see all the way to the bottom, where tiny hermit crabs were making homes in pretty shells and sea anemones waved their soft tentacles like flowers in a gentle breeze. "You see," Poseidon said to the water, "when you are calm and peaceful, everyone wants to be near you. Your stillness is a gift. Your gentleness is a treasure. You don't need to shout or splash to be special. Your quiet beauty speaks louder than any wave ever could." The water seemed to glow with happiness, a soft blue-green light that made everything look magical and safe. But there was one more thing Poseidon wanted to do. He wanted to make sure this cove would always remember to be calm, even when he wasn't there. So he reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of special sand. This wasn't ordinary sand. It was made from tiny fragments of peaceful dreams, ground-up moonlight, and the essence of every quiet moment the ocean had ever known. Poseidon scattered this magical sand across the bottom of the cove, and as it settled, it began to sing. It was the softest, gentlest song you've ever heard. so quiet you almost had to stop breathing to hear it. It hummed with the rhythm of calm tides and whispered with the voice of easy breezes. This sand would sing forever, a lullaby for the water, reminding it always to be still and peaceful. The creatures who had come to visit the cove loved it so much that they decided to make it their special place. The dolphins made it their favorite spot to teach their babies how to jump. The sea turtles returned there every evening to rest after their long days of swimming. The fish made homes in the rocks and coral, creating little neighborhoods where they could raise their families safely. And the octopuses, who had been so shy before, became the friendliest octopuses in the whole ocean, greeting every visitor with gentle waves of their 8 arms. News of the beautiful, calm cove spread throughout the ocean. Soon, sailors in their boats began to notice it too. They would sail past and see how perfectly still and blue the water was, how it sparkled peacefully in the sunlight. And they would feel their own worried thoughts grow quiet. Some sailors would drop their anchors there and rest, lying on the decks of their ships and watching the clouds drift by overhead, feeling safe and calm. Children who lived on the nearby island would come to the edge of the cove and sit with their feet in the water. They would watch the fish swim by and listen to the gentle lap 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 of the tiny waves against the shore. Some would bring their worries and whisper them to the water, and the calm cove would seem to take those worries away, carrying them out to the deep sea where Poseidon would turn them into bubbles that floated up and popped harmlessly in the air. Poseidon visited the cove often after that. Sometimes he would sit on his rock and tell stories to the dolphins about the old days when the world was new. Sometimes he would swim with the sea turtles, matching their slow, peaceful pace and listening to their wise observations about life. And sometimes he would simply float on his back, looking up at the sky, feeling grateful that he could help the water remember how beautiful it was when it was calm. One evening, as the sun was setting and painting the sky in shades of lavender and rose, a little girl came to the cove. She had been crying, and her eyes were red and puffy. She sat down on the same rock where Poseidon often sat, and she dangled her toes in the water. Poseidon, who was swimming nearby beneath the surface, could see her sadness. He rose up gently, his head appearing above the water like a kind grandfather emerging from a warm bath. His silver hair was slicked back, and his ocean blue eyes were full of compassion. "Hello, little one," he said softly, his voice as gentle as the evening breeze. "Why do your eyes hold rain?" The little girl wasn't frightened because Poseidon's kindness was so clear. She wiped her eyes and said, "I had a bad day. Nothing went right, and I feel all choppy and rough inside, like I can't be still." Poseidon nodded slowly, understanding completely. "Ah," he said, "I know that feeling well. This very cove used to feel that way too." He told her the story of how the water had been restless and choppy, and how it had learned to be calm again by remembering all the beautiful, peaceful moments it had experienced. He showed her the magical sand at the bottom, still singing its quiet lullaby. "You have beautiful moments inside you too," Poseidon told her. "Times when you laughed so hard your belly hurt. Mornings when you woke up feeling cozy and warm. Moments when someone you love gave you a hug that made everything feel right. Those memories are like this magical sand. They're always there, always singing to you, reminding you that peace is your true nature." The little girl listened, and as she did, she felt something shift inside her. The choppy, rough feeling began to smooth out. She took a slow, deep breath, and the air tasted like salt and sunshine. She looked at the calm water of the cove, at her reflection, rippling gently on its surface, and she saw herself the way Poseidon saw the ocean, beautiful, important, and capable of great peace. When you feel rough and restless inside, Poseidon continued, you can do what the water does. You can remember. You can breathe slowly. You can be still, even if it's just for a moment. And you can know, truly know, that your calmness is a gift to everyone around you, just like this cove's calmness is a gift to all who visit. The little girl smiled, her first real smile of the day. She thanked Poseidon, and he smiled back before slipping beneath the water again as quietly as a fish. She stayed there a while longer, watching the last colors of sunset fade from the sky. And the first stars begin to appear, tiny points of light reflected perfectly in the mirror still water. From that day on, whenever anyone felt troubled or restless, they would remember the story of Poseidon and the calm blue sea. They would remember that beneath all the choppy waves and rough feelings, there was always stillness waiting to be found. They would remember that being peaceful wasn't about never having big feelings, it was about knowing how to return to calmness, like the water returning to stillness after a boat passes through. And Poseidon continued to watch over his ocean, touching his staff to the waves whenever they forgot how to be calm, whispering gentle reminders to the water about its true nature, and helping every creature and every person who needed to remember that peace was always, always within reach. The cove remained calm and beautiful, a special place where the water was always clear and still, where the sand sang its quiet lullaby, and where anyone who needed to feel peaceful could come and sit and breathe and remember. And on quiet nights, when the moon rose full and silver over the water, you could see Poseidon sitting on his rock, his silver hair glowing in the moonlight, his eyes reflecting the stars, keeping watch over his beloved ocean and all the peaceful hearts within it. The dolphins still leap there, the turtles still rest, the fish still swim their graceful dances. And the water still remembers, every single day, that its truest and most beautiful self is calm, gentle, and deeply, perfectly still. You did well today, my little love. Now let your eyes grow heavy, and let the night wrap around you like a soft blanket. Sleep well, sweet dreams, and rest deeply.